What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Inside D3 show. I am your host, Morgan Cheatham. Thank you guys again for joining us. Be sure to follow us on our website at InsideD3.com. Also, follow us on our Twitter and Instagram at D3Inside. Our YouTube is Inside D3, and we're now on iTunes as well. So we're on iTunes, Spotify, and Anchor for all of our podcasts. Just search the Inside D3 show, and you can find us on there. So, want to introduce our guest today. We are joined by Keri Luchowski. She is the executive director of the North Coast Athletic Conference, and she has a plethora of other titles that we'll get into later on in the show. But how are you doing today, Keri?
I'm doing great, Morgan. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey into, Division III athletics and, how you got to the position that you're in right now. So tell us a little bit about, how you got there. Did you have like playing experience beforehand? What other colleges did you go to and things like that?
I did. So I was a student athlete at Wheeling Jesuit College, now Wheeling University. I was a women's soccer player. And I've been involved in sports and recreation at various levels for my whole life. When I graduated from college, I went to grad school in sport management at Kent State University. And I got my first real start there, needing an internship, knowing that I needed some. I was involved with the Cleveland Crunch, which was a professional indoor soccer team. I will date myself a little and say that was before MLS existed. So it was one of the highest levels of soccer in the country at the time. And so I got to help and really just use my soccer background. So statistics, got to use my writing, which was my degree at Wheeling. And from there, I got to meet people in the league office. And so when I needed an internship for grad school, I had one kind of that I could step into. And I was lucky enough that they hired me before I graduated as the communications coordinator. And I was there for 3 years before I came to the NCAC as the assistant director. So doing a lot of the same stuff, sports information type work. But I was lucky enough to have a boss at the time, our commissioner, who let me really do a lot of things. And so I've been here ever since. This is my 21st year with the NCAC in some role.
Wow, that is a long time.
It is. Also dating myself. It's fine.
It's okay. We're still young at heart, so it's all that matters. So, talk a little bit about your role as, the executive of the NCAC. What do you do and, how do you impact student athletes, either from your conference or student athletes as a whole in D3?
Sure. So, executive director, commissioner has a lot of the same roles in the day-to-day. We're really the main coordinators for the conferences that we belong to, and the NCAC is no different. And so we just make sure that everything that our schools want to do athletically, we help coordinate that. So we're, our day-to-day is a lot of things like schedules, officials, awards, a lot of conference meetings, all that kind of stuff that helps the games get played. And so from that side, we have a really big impact. And we hope through things we do with SAC, things we do with professional development, programs like our conference has the Branch Rickey Mentoring Program for women and underrepresented students who aspire to a career in athletics. Through things like that, I think we have the ability to have a great impact on our student athletes. And we also do a lot of programming and support for our coaches and administrators who deal with students every day. And so sometimes our impact is a few steps away. But I do think most of us are in this because we get to have some impact on the lives of our students.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. What other, involvements? I know we talked about, some of the things that you, do on the side as well. I know you're a part of the NCAA D3 nominating committee, so tell us a little bit about what that is.
Sure. The nominating committee is the committee that at the NCAA level that helps fill all the other committees. And so if somebody wants to be involved, they have to apply, and then we help filter those people into different committees, for lack of a better word. But the NCAA is very much run by its members. The NCAA, it's not often known that people think of it as this entity in Indianapolis, and whoever's in that building is the NCAA, and that's not really true. The NCAA is all of us. It's all of our institutions. It's all of our coaches, student athletes, conference personnel, trainers, everyone. And so it's run by our governance is really run by committees, and everyone has an opportunity to serve. And so we get to help people do that.
Okay. All right. So you're also a part of. I got a long list here. So you're also a part of the NCDA Under Armour Athletic Director of the Year selection. So what is that process like?
So again, that's one of the more fun things that I get to do, and it is to recognize people who have done excellent work as an athletic director in Division III. And so we get to review the submissions, and we get to just really see how people are appreciated by those that they work with. It's a really uplifting thing to do, and it's also really nice just to see all the good work that happens in our division. It's tough though, because so many people do such good work. It's really hard to vote on those ballots, but that is it's really nice to see what happens throughout the division and how many good people are in Division III.
So what is that process like? Like how do you decide who gets selected, and how do you go through the voting process?
Sure, so it's electronic like everything else these days. So we get a lot of statements. We get their bio, we get a resume sometimes, and then all the people who support them. And we have an application process that someone has to fill out. And so we take all that information, and we have a loose kind of criteria that we kind of grade them by. And then there's some personal, choice and preference. And then we rank all of the candidates who were nominated, and whoever comes out on top gets to be the AD of the year. And we do a couple different regions. We do like 3, I think it is. So we should be getting those ballots relatively soon to see the results of the voting. Actually, that might have been announced recently. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree. So when does the do they bring that out at a certain time, like the nominees or the selection?
So the people who win the award are honored at the annual NACTA convention, which happens in the summer, and so they get recognized. We recognize them in Division III with the National Association of Division III Athletic Administrators. We like to just at least give a nod and recognize those awards. But NACTA has a really wonderful awards luncheon that they are honored in front of all divisions and college administrators from the NAIA and other organizations. And so it's really nice that they get that kind of public recognition.
Yeah, for sure. So we also have you in the you are the president of the NADIA, which is the National Association of D3 Athletic Administrators. So what do you do there?
So our biggest efforts there are to enhance opportunities and professional development for Division III athletic administrators. So that's athletic directors, assistant athletic directors, SWAs, people who aspire to be athletic directors. And so we focus on programming throughout the year in different ways. We have webinars. We have a communications portal online that people can communicate and ask questions of each other. We have some social media activities that we do. And we also do educational programming in person. So we have a summer forum, which is at the NACTA convention in the summer. And we bring people together and have roundtables and presenters and try to offer ways for our members just to develop in their careers. That's the biggest focus of everything that we do.
Okay, awesome. So you're also, along this other long list we have, you're also part of the D3 Commissioners Association. You're
Yes.
part of the officiating subcommittee. So what does that do?
Yeah, so the D3 Commissioners Association launched an initiative this year to study officiating, the landscape. So there is a looming crisis in officiating. We are going to not have enough officials to play our contests in across many sports, across many divisions, outside the NCAA, just pretty much at every level, there's an officiating crisis. And so we decided that at least at the Division III level, we would start to try and take a big overall look at that and find out why, collect some data, and come up with a plan to address it. There has been a lot of work done in various sports, but nothing kind of overarching. And as a result of this, the work that we have started, the NCAA has actually launched a division-wide their association-wide steering committee on officials. And so members of the D3 officiating committee, of which I am one, belong to that association-wide program to do that for every level of officiating at the NCAA. It's probably one of the most important projects that I'm involved in because, we can't play our games without officials.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, that there's like this shortage of officials nowadays?
Well, and now we get into my personal opinions. I think that, there's a lot of reasons. I think that, most of our student athletes come up and they've come up in a time where there has been less respect for just officiating in general. I think that you see things on TV where the bad behavior towards officials or the bad attitudes are glorified in some ways. And it is much more prevalent to see that, and it's much more acceptable to yell at officials, say terrible things to officials, disrespect the work that they do. But we also, on the other hand, live in a time of great technology advancements, and they are wonderful for sport. However, replay and all of those things instant, there's a huge difference between watching an instant replay with 6 different camera angles than being on the field and having to make a decision with a split second. So that kind of demand for perfection is unrealistic, and I think it hurts officiating in general. And you put all of that together, the average age of an official in this country across all sports is in the mid-50s or higher. And that's a really high number when you think of all the officials. That means we are not getting younger officials to enter the profession. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things about this, how can we address some of those root causes of the problem, but how can we also start attracting people to the profession to begin with? How do we even get them started at a younger age? And that's where we are. It's unfortunate because most officials, pretty much all officials, do it because they love their sport, and it's a way that they can give back, and it's a way that they can continue to be involved. I mean, most of us stop playing. If we are lucky enough to be student athletes in college, that's when we stop. Such a tiny number go on to be a professional. But even youth and rec leagues and all of those things, there's ways for people to be involved in sport, but in a real meaningful way. Officiating offers that. And so how do we get people to kind of understand that again?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, it's such a negative, stigma around being a referee, being an official, especially when there's so much pressure on you already, to make the right calls and things like that. And, especially within our division, you don't get the replays and some of the, camera angles, especially as officials. You can't even, go back and watch them in certain sports and certain instances. So that definitely makes it a little more difficult. And, you still got the pressure from players, fans, everything like that. You're trying to, do your job. So, yeah, hopefully we can, work to improve that in the future.
Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about, you're also a part of the Northeastern Ohio National Football Foundation Board. So what do you do there?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So the board supports football, especially at the high school level. And one of the biggest projects that we do is a banquet and an awards program. And so we offer postgraduate scholarships to high school students, be based on their football playing experience, but also their community service efforts and their athletic accomplishments, along with their academic accomplishments. And so that is one of the most, again, you get to see these student athletes who have overcome things, who have these wonderful careers, and you look at their resumes and you think, wow, I was involved in high school, you think, and then you read these and you say, these student athletes are just amazing. And we also honor, we give postgraduate scholarships to the local college students in our area as well, so that they can use them for their collegiate experience, so grad school, things like that, based on, again, how their athletic experience, their academic experience, their community service. And so it's a real honor to be involved in that. We also recognize coaches, trainers, moms, people who support football and find value in that sport. So it's it's another thing that is just really meaningful. It's very positive. I just love doing it.
So how did you get into that? What process was that?
So that is actually, it's an interesting thing. NACDA, which is the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics, they also serve as an umbrella organization for a lot of things. So Nadia, which I belong to, that we talked about, is under that umbrella. Division II commissioners, Division II athletic directors, marketing people, facilities groups, all kind of different affinity groups are under the NACDA umbrella. Well, one of the other things that they do is they coordinate the Northeast Ohio Football Association. And NACDA happens to be right down the street from our office.
Okay.
And so our former commissioner was involved. And when I became the commissioner, they asked me to be involved as well when he left.
Okay. That's very interesting. So talk about, I know you were a chair of the Chi Alpha Sigma board, so
So Chi Alpha Sigma is actually a student athlete academic honor society.
okay.
And so it is for student athletes who have high achieving academics and also community service.
Hmm.
And so institutions can have chapters, they can host chapters. All of the 10 NCAC schools host a chapter, for example, and they can then initiate their classes each year of students who meet those criteria. And I got involved with that. So the Chi Alpha Sigma was started at DePauw University. And so they are a member of the North Coast Athletic Conference
Okay.
and asked to be involved and just help out and try to help grow the organization. And so it's really nice. There are coaches on the board from DePauw, but then we have people involved from all over the country just trying to spread the student athlete and recognize the student portion of student athletes across the country. And it's not Division III, it's any division. Right now, any 4-year institution who has athletics can participate.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, your personal journey a little more and
Sure.
what made you decide to choose D3 in particular. What were the, reasons behind that? Did it kind of fall into your lap? I know you had a lot of previous experience within D3, but
Mm-hmm.
what was the overall reason why?
It did kind of fall into my lap. Wheeling Jesuit is a school, now Wheeling University, is a school a lot like the NCAC schools. It's smaller. I got a really personal experience with my professors, but I got to do everything that I wanted to do. I got to try on all kinds of different things. I was involved, as is probably not a surprise, I was involved in a lot of things. And I also played soccer and I had the ability to do so. And I am a completely different person from when I went to college to when I came out because of that experience. And while I loved professional soccer, I loved being involved in that world. I was looking for something different after 3 years, and the SID at Case Western Reserve, Case was in our league at the time. They were in the process of leaving to be fully in the UAA. They had been joint members. He had worked in the soccer league as well, and so he knew that the NCAC had an opening. He knew I was looking, and he introduced us. So I went through that process, and I was lucky enough to be hired. At the time I tell the story, I thought I'd be here for 3 years. I just thought, that seemed like I was going to try it out, see what it was like, and then try to go back to maybe pro sports. But I fell in love with just everything about the NCAC and D3. It reminded me of what I went through. And it reminded me of everything I got out of college and, my best friends, these women that I played with and my coach and my professors. Some of those people are like my family to this day. And so the idea and going through and learning that I had that impact, even if it was a little bit as an assistant, in providing that for our students, I just fell in love with it. And I love the NCAC. I did not obviously go to one of our schools, but I think we have great schools. I think we have great people. It's just a really great environment to be in. And anything I can do to help our students have those same experiences, I count myself really lucky.
Absolutely. I think D3 is very lucky to have you. Just, hearing all of the things that you're involved in, and I think you're so passionate about it just from, talking with you. So thank you for that. So I want to give you one last question before we go.
Okay.
So, what are you doing to keep yourself busy during this quarantine? You know?
Well, I'm cooking a lot, which is fantastic, except it's not. So I need to start working out more to balance that a little bit. I'm reading a little bit. I'm catching up on some reading that I don't normally get to do. My house is pretty clean,
Mhm.
which is great. But I very much find that I miss um, being busy and having the activity with all of my colleagues in the NCAC and in D3.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of your dishes? What are some of your like go-to famous dishes over there?
Oh, famous dishes. Okay. Lasagna is
Okay,
a good
okay.
one. Do that a lot. Really, I'm Italian mostly, so anything pasta related. A lot of grilling. Um, yeah, pork chops, chicken, sausages. Lots of grilling. A lot of grilled vegetables. So it's not all bad.
Okay, okay. We may have to stop by one day, and we'll have to see how good all of this is that you're
Oh, I
hyping up.
would. I love to feed people, so you are welcome.
This sounds just like my mom, so I think we'll get right along.
Okay.
All right, Carrie. Well, that's all I have for you today. We appreciate you coming in and talking with us, and thank you for coming and giving us a little bit of your time.
I appreciate you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that does it for another episode today. Again, be sure to follow us on our website, our Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all of our streaming for podcasts. Once again, I am Morgan Cheatham. This is episode 4 of the Inside D3 show, and we are signing off. All right.